Trump administration has canceled a contract with Moderna for the development of a bird flu vaccine for humans. Our Angelica Peebles joins us now with more, and you could conjecture a lot of things about this between RFK Jr. and vaccines and mRNA. What's behind all this, Angela?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. So this is just the latest in a string of events that we've seen related to COVID vaccines over the last week. And what's happening here is that the Trump administration is canceling a more than $700 million contract with Moderna to develop a bird flu vaccine and other pre-pandemic influenza viruses. And so what's really notable about this is that obviously we've seen this, we've seen bird flu tearing through birds and also dairy cows and the risk to humans. And so what we saw in the Biden administration is that they really ramped up this work, and they were helping to fund, they were going to fund a phase 3 trial to see if we could use mRNA for a bird flu vaccine if it indeed spills over to humans. And now the cancellation of this vaccine is quite a surprise, maybe not a surprise now because we had been hearing rumblings about this for the past few months. But, we just saw this contract ramp up right before the last administration left. And now you have the Trump administration saying that they felt like after a rigorous review, we concluded that the continued investment in Moderna's H5N1 mRNA vaccine was not scientifically or ethically justifiable. And they're saying that it's not just about efficacy, it's about safety. And so it's interesting to hear them really casting doubt on just the safety and the efficacy of mRNA vaccines as a whole.
I know, and that has been swirling around since COVID. And, people talk about myocarditis and that, I don't know, some anecdotal evidence about some of the vaccines we used for COVID. They sometimes don't point out that you can get terrible myocarditis from COVID itself, and it's a much lower incidence, obviously, with the vaccines. But there's a whole, you've seen it sort of, sort of increasing, the skepticism, and then you have, the RFK Jr. in a position has expressed some skepticism about vaccines in the past. Angelica, the J&J was not an mRNA vaccine, I don't think, for COVID. I mean, what will
Correct.
we use for bird flu if we don't use? It's very quick, and it's like software. You can update the software with messenger RNA. It's a pretty powerful platform to develop a vaccine. What would we use if it did jump? What would we use if it did jump to bird flu if we don't use an mRNA virus? We'd use some adeno virus or something?
So we do have 3 licensed vaccines that do use older technology grown in eggs and also cell culture. But like you said, Joe, these take much longer to produce. And that's been really the key with mRNA. And that's why we've seen so much excitement, whether it's about seasonal flu and also pandemic flu, because you can just quickly update what you need. It only takes days to produce this. I've been to one of Pfizer's manufacturing facilities up in Massachusetts, and it's just a very small operation compared to the output that you can get with mRNA versus what you see with some of the egg-based vaccines, for example, where you need, thousands, millions of eggs to actually produce the vaccines. And so I think that's why, this is a little bit surprising because the hopes were so high. And also, again, the mRNA vaccines were originally developed under the first Trump administration. And that was seen as such a win, of course, during the pandemic. And now you have this new administration coming in and saying, whoa, we need to, hold the phone. Yeah. This is under-tested, and we're not going to continue what the Biden administration did. And so it's a really interesting, turn of events here. And also, I do want to note that tomorrow, we're actually expecting an FDA decision for Moderna's next-generation COVID vaccine. That PDUFA date is tomorrow, and it's hard to see, what happens with that.
Yeah. It's troubling, I got to admit, because it's all rolled up in the lab origin and, whether we should have closed everything down and whether kids should have not been. It's all rolled up into that. There's an entire I'm not going to call it a conspiracy, but there's an entire social media group of people that just anything that has to do with the COVID vaccine, they're against. And it could be cutting off our nose to spite our face if we're not ready for bird flu, because of this perception that messenger RNAs aren't safe. And we need more testing. I mean, I have seen some things that maybe the mRNA stays around longer than the half-life was supposed to be seconds, I think, wasn't it, or something originally, Angelica? And then have they found it?
Yeah, it's
months
not long.
later. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what the half-life is, but it's not supposed to be something, that lingers forever.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, politics informs everything these days. Angelica, thank you.